The Philadelphia 76ers have advanced their winning streak to 4 games, putting forth another convincing victory as they continue to dismantle inferior opponents. However, the question still needs to be asked how they stack up against the NBA's most elite and what moves still need to be done to this Sixers roster to elevate them to true championship contenders. Daryl Morey recently hopped on 97.5 The Fanatic to give a little bit of an input into what his mindset is leading up to the trade deadline and the overall approach for the Sixers from here. Now, we know the ultimate conclusion of the James Harden trade. The biggest appeal of the deal was bringing back these draft picks, increasing the roster flexibility, and allowing the Sixers further time to evaluate what this team needs. Now, with over 20 games in the books, Morey is beginning to have a more concrete idea of what he's looking for. So let's kick this off and take a look at some of Daryl Morey's quotes, specifically with this one here, and dive in from there. And I'll start with this quote. Daryl Morey gives a look at the team's outlook at the trade deadline while on the John Kincaid show on 97.5 The Fanatic. Morey said, quote, "We feel very good where we're at. We're not complacent. We know we need to keep playing better, keep improving, hopefully add someone that may be significant as well with all the draft picks that we have now, and we do feel like this is a year we need to focus on. We don't take it for granted that this is a super important year." Now, Morey went on to elaborate in that conversation, talking about when you have a player like Joel Embiid, you never know how long this peak is going to last. And Morey kind of had a joking moment with it where he said, "No, I've said this for a couple years now, and Joel has continued to only get better year in and year out. So I've stopped phrasing it exactly like that. But the point still being that we know that Embiid's window is not forever. He is playing the best basketball of his career, and I feel like I cannot stop saying that year in and year out. I feel like he has reached his ceiling as a player, only to be proven wrong. And this year specifically, I believe he is firmly the frontrunner for the MVP race. There is not a player in the NBA that has been more impactful than Joel Embiid on both sides of the ball. His growth in playmaking and improvements on the defensive side of the floor are especially notable, but there's plenty of basketball still to be played to evaluate that. Now, in the conversation of Joel Embiid, Morey went a little more in depth on what he's bringing to the table and kind of spoke to why Nick Nurse has further opened him up. And those comments by Morey I have here. He said, quote, "You see he's playing with a real joy, and that's a big deal to Joel. He loves adding things to his game, and this year, because of the changes and because of all of his offseason work and Nick Nurse and the new teammates, he's coming to work excited, and that's showing more of his versatility, and he's really thriving in that. And it shows up on the defensive end, too. I've had a lot of great bigs in my career. Obviously, Joel Embiid is the best." So nice little love from Daryl Morey there. It is cool that they seem to have a rather tight relationship, that there is a two-way street between Morey and Joel when it comes to personnel decisions, making decisions based on the organization, all these things. And Embiid deserves that type of respect, that he is that caliber of player. He has outlived three other GMs before Daryl Morey, in addition to 2 other coaches before Nick Nurse. Joel Embiid is the stabilizing force of the Sixers franchise. He is the sun that the organization orbits around, and it has been that way for several years now. And I do think Morey is onto something when he talks about the joy that Joel Embiid is playing with, that you can just see it on the floor, the way that he moves, the way that he his expressions out there. Embiid's a guy that is not hard to read from a body language standpoint, and that shows up in both positive and negative ways. When things are going bad, when Joel is not having fun, he definitely has a bad tendency to sulk a little bit, and that's infectious to others. But on the other side of the coin, and what has been the case so far this year, is that when things are going well for Joel, when he's in a good mood, when he's vibing, when the team's winning, you can see that on his face as well, that there is that expression, that excitement that he's playing with, that joy that he is playing with basketball. He's meant to have fun. That is when he's at his best as a basketball player, when he's relaxed, playing fun, and there's been a lot of moments so far this year where it feels he's just straight up toying with opponents. And another guy that I do want to shift this conversation to, who's a key part of the puzzle when we talk about the Sixers ceiling as a team, and is also a key contributor to the Vibes campaign and keeping spirits high within the Sixers locker room, that is Tyrese Maxey. He was also a topic of discussion on 97.5 with Morey talking. Morey admitted that Maxey is kind of exceeding all expectations based on what they had his ceiling evaluated as a player and how rapidly he could improve. Obviously a testament to the work that Maxey puts in and how much better he's gotten from his time in college, but it is still tough not to be impressed by the advancements that he has taken. Now, when talking about Maxey specifically, I think this quote will especially make Sixers fans feel good. Morey says regarding Tyrese Maxey, quote, "I think he's going to be one of those guys that's in Philadelphia forever and one of those beloved players that goes in the pantheon of Philadelphia sports heroes. Morey also admitted he couldn't predict the extent of Maxey's growth and credited him for putting in the work and continuing to adjust to the defensive schemes around him. That was a especially notable point that I thought that he hit on at the end, is the way that Morey phrased that is they want to wait and get a larger sample size before evaluating this team, because we see this often, not just in basketball, but all sports, where guys have this hot start and then all of a sudden opposing teams get a little bit of a book on him. They understand their tendencies. And Maxey has not slowed down just yet. That while there are defensive adjustments being made to him, that teams are throwing different looks at him, making him a more serious part of the scouting report, Maxey's finding ways to combat that. And this is even coming off a night against the Pistons, in which he had his worst shooting performance of the year, shot just 2 for 13 from the field. He did add 9 assists and continued to find ways to impact the game positively, but it was cool to see that Maxey not allowing that to fully throw him off his game, still finding a way to make his impact, and just a huge testament to his growth and maturity as a player there. Now, the overall arcing theme that we talked a lot about with the Sixers, when we talk about making moves, what this team's missing, the missing ingredients, a huge theme that Daryl Morey has hit on is this cap space plan. As things are currently constructed, the Sixers will have the second most available cap space of all teams in the NBA, trailing only the Orlando Magic in that category. And what makes the Sixers specifically different is their win now intentions. Having that amount of flexibility with an MVP caliber player in Joel Embiid, with a rising star like Tyrese Maxey, it puts the organization in a great place to build. And to dive into a quote that Daryl Morey said specifically about that cap space plan, this is written from Brian Toperick of the Liberty Ballers, a true salary cap guru and a guy that is an awesome follow around the Sixers universe. But he writes, quote, "In the wake of the James Harden trade, the Sixers are now poised to be the biggest player on the free agent market next summer. They could carve out more than $55 million in salary cap space, making them the only playoff caliber team with that type of spending power. Sixers president Daryl Morey wouldn't prefer to wait that long to make his next big splash, though. Quote, ideally, we would actually sort of use that cap space early," Morey told reporters the Wednesday after the Harden trade became official. "That's generally better because then you both have that front-end flexibility and then the back-end flexibility to re-sign them. And then you can see who becomes available. So in parlance of how teams talk, we would like to use it as early as we can in terms of acquiring the people we might re-sign or bring back. It gives you flexibility. That said, the nice thing is we do have the back-end optionality of that if we don't use it early on players we want to re-sign or have longer deals, then what we want to do is go after the best players who are in free agency, which people are too down on." So a lot to digest there from Morey's perspective, but the biggest point being one of the obvious topics that he's kind of touching on, and once again, Daryl Morey has to be quite careful in how he words things due to the tampering fines and things that happen when you're talking about players on other teams, but one of the concepts that he's hitting on here is trading for a player that is set to be a free agent. And some clear examples of that, a guy like OG Anunoby would fit that bill, or Pascal Siakam. I know OG has a player option, but the bottom line is that both these guys, the intentions of trading for him is you get both that front end and back end flexibility. That the benefit of that being that when you trade for a player and when you will have him for the conclusion of the season, as would be the case in this situation, the Sixers would gain the bird rights, which gives them more flexibility to re-sign them and do their little dance around the salary cap to maximize the players they can bring in. And the last point that Morey hit on that was about the people being too down on the free agent class. So I want to pull up that here, and specifically the players that will be available this summer. There is LeBron James, who will be on a player option, so not guaranteed to hit free agency. Same is the case with both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Each have a player option with the Clippers. A lot to be determined throughout the year with that Clippers team. Klay Thompson is going to be a free agent, and based on how things are going in Golden State, it would not surprise me if he is in a different uniform next year. But then Tobias Harris is the fifth best free agent based on money, is not an appealing figure for the Sixers. Would not surprise me if Tobias comes back, but it has to be at a significantly lesser figure than is currently the case, and frankly, I would prefer just a new face in the locker room overall. There's also James Harden, who we've seen how that experience goes, Pascal Siakam, Drew Holiday, Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, and Mike Conley round out the top guys there. So not quite the star-studded list that many picture when you go for trying to get these big fish out of the pond there, but still some quality names that could help the Sixers team. And the biggest point being that they're not looking for a number one or number two star. They're looking for the completing pieces. And before I pump in all this hype about free agency attacking, I do want to pump the brakes and just remind how good the vibes within the Sixers team is. And that is something that Morey has to consider as he makes these moves, not losing a locker room or upsetting guys by taking out the wrong piece, because there is so much value in having the right personality mix in addition to the right on-court mix. And kind of a video that hit home for me and proved it was this video that came right after the most recent win against the Pistons.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to wish you congratulations on your victory against the Detroit Pistons. It's come to my attention that there's two birthdays currently on the planes today, and on the count of three, I would like to sing happy birthday to Robert Covington.
Can we sing?
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nicholas and A.K. Rico. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Come on. Happy birthday.
So from Mo Bamba and D'Anthony Melton on the mic, to Pat Bev, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid sitting around the cards table, to Jaden Springer, Paul Reed, Robert Covington, Daniel House overlooking, and Kelly Oubre posted up in the back chilling, Marcus Morris in his own world, Furkan in his own world. That's just about exactly how I would picture the Sixers team playing, and cool to see them all kind of getting in on the fun, getting in on the mix, and obviously a happy birthday to Robert Covington and Nico Batum there. Those are two guys, Robert Covington and Nico Batum, who have proven to be valuable depth pieces. And the Sixers roster, you can argue about the top-end talent, and that's really the conversation that needs to be had as we make these roster adjustments and observations moving forward. But this is the deepest Sixers team we've had during the Joel Embiid era. And the conversation that needs to be discussed and what needs to be weighed is what is the appeal of keeping this depth versus taking a swing and getting an upgraded, better individual player. Does it make sense to lump in a Marcus Morris and whoever else trade to get that one piece? Or is it better keeping the vibes as they are, keeping the depth as it is, and truly seeing how this season plays out? Luckily for now, we don't have to make a rush in making those decisions. There is still plenty more of the sample size that can be seen before we elect to see what the missing piece of the Sixers team is. But the bottom line is things are going well, and we should not rush things. It's good that Morey has the type of outlook that he does. It's cool to see him speak on it in the way that he did with that platform. And we will be waiting anxiously for some more news on that front. I'm sure there are plenty of rumors still to pop up, probably new names to enter the trade rumors and market. We will be all over covering that for you guys right here on Sixers Digest. Appreciate you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on the vibes of the team, what the trade outlook would be, and any names that you want to talk about specifically. We'll talk to you guys next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.